Talk 2. Run by the person.
Hey guys, Soyboy Destroyer here. It's no secret that on this channel I have been unafraid to state my opinions, no matter how controversial they may be. However, I think that the topic which I am about to talk about is one of the most hotly contested political issues at the moment. With Texas outlawing abortions after 6 weeks, tensions between pro-lifers and pro-choicers have come to a boil. It has worried me to see so many insults hurled from both sides at each other, and it is even more worrying to me that the solutions which both are proposing involve rather authoritarian measures that would naturally lead to the expansion of an already bloated government. Because of this, it was with a heavy heart that I saw that I would have to make this video. Now, this video isn't going to get into the morality of abortion. However, regardless of whether you are pro-life or pro-choice, I am sure that you believe the way you do because you want what is best for society. The vast majority of pro-choicers do not simply want to murder babies, and the vast majority of pro-lifers do not simply hate women. As a matter of fact, I think it's fair to say that they both have the same goal. They wish to live in a society in which people's freedoms are fully respected. In the case of those who are pro-choice, that means the freedom to choose to terminate a pregnancy. In the case of those who are pro-life, that means the fetus having the freedom to live. In this video, I intend to show how the measures which are commonly proposed by both sides of the debate are counterproductive, and to propose an alternative. So without further ado, I'm about to drop a big old red pill on all of you. Because of how divided America, and for that matter the world, has become, it can be difficult for people to understand that we have far more in common than that which divides us, and sometimes this isn't for the better. On the surface, both sides of the abortion debate couldn't be more different. The pro-choice side believes that people have the right to choose to have an abortion, and that the government should enforce this right by mandating that taxation should be raised in order to fund organizations such as Planned Parenthood. The pro-life side believes that fetuses have the right to live, and that the government should enforce this right by mandating that taxation should be raised in order for the police to be equipped to enforce this ban. However, in either case, this means that the government is effectively enabled to steal people's money in order to enforce a particular right. Now, regardless of what side you're on, ask yourself this. Why is it acceptable that people who earned their money through their own hard work should have it stolen from them in order to pay for something that they consider morally objectionable? Because this is quite literally what the majority of pro-lifers and pro-choicers support the government having the ability to do. In their ideal society, if somebody disagrees with the government's policy on abortion and refuses to hand over their money to pay for its enforcement, the government is allowed to forcibly detain that person. And for what? The crime of disagreeing with government policy and refusing to have their money stolen to pay for it. That's what. While this policy is no doubt implemented by people who mean well, I consider it to be an unacceptable infringement on people's civil liberties. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Although there are no doubt quite a few pro-life leftists and quite a few pro-choice people on the right, modern politics has become so intrinsically partisan that the pro-choice position has become inextricably linked to the left, as has the pro-life position with the right. And as I have said before, both sides want your money to support their goals, whether you like it or not. It doesn't come to me as much of a surprise to see the left being in favour of the government being given more power to enforce something that they consider to be a right. After all, the left is generally happy for the government to take other people's money to pay for many other things which they consider to be rights, including but not limited to healthcare, education, housing, transport and broadband. However, it perplexes me to see a similar point of view existing on the right, with many conservatives and even a few self-described libertarians taking a rather contradictory position that we should somehow simultaneously shrink the size of the government while also expanding it so that it has the power to steal other people's money to enforce a ban on abortion. Due to the authoritarian measures needed to enforce this position, and due to them being taken due to a certain right, I can't help but notice a lot of similarities between the conservative position on abortion and the socialist position on healthcare. The socialist position on healthcare is typically that because many people get sick through no fault of their own, they should have the right to healthcare, and this right is often necessary as an extension of people's right to live. The fact is that if many people aren't able to get healthcare, they will die. The general consensus among socialists when it comes to healthcare is that the government has the right to steal other people's money due to their belief that it will protect the right to life. Sounds familiar, right? Well, those who take that position on abortion typically take the opposite view on healthcare. Although conservatives and socialists share the same goal of giving healthcare to as many people as possible, conservatives generally take a different position regarding the means by which this goal can be achieved. On the right, there is a general consensus that the free market is the best means of achieving a prosperous society, and that if it is left to its own devices, it will be more effective at providing people healthcare than the government. This is because people will be driven to become more aspirational to attain their own money to pay for healthcare due to their own hard work and success. For the less fortunate in society, private charities will exist which people can voluntarily donate their own money to fund. These will be able to care for people for free, and the government won't have to steal people's money to pay for it. Socialists are opposed to the notion of private charities providing people healthcare. The British Socialist Prime Minister Clement Attlee, under whose administration the NHS was founded, which provided free healthcare at the taxpayer's expense, stated that charity is a cold, grey, loveless thing. If a rich man wants to help the poor, he should pay his taxes gladly, not dole out money at a whim. While many conservatives will no doubt take issue with this, it is important to understand that the statist sentiment behind Attlee's statement is at the core of their beliefs about abortion. They believe that people should pay their taxes gladly in order to help the unborn, rather than favouring a solution to abortion involving voluntary donations to private charities. Now, what I think is important to understand here is that the reason socialists take the position that they do on healthcare and the reason conservatives take the position that they do on abortion is often because they perceive the alternative as a form of murder. Socialists believe that people not being provided healthcare and dying as a result of that is a form of murder at the hands of those who refuse to treat their conditions. Conservatives believe that the unborn being aborted is murder at the hands of those who perform the abortion. Now, I'm not going to get into the ethics of whether abortion is murder, or the moral question of whether having the ability to save somebody from dying and refusing to do so is murder. However, I am going to say that there is a fundamental problem at the heart of how most of society on both the left and the right believes murder should be dealt with, which leads to them taking the positions that they do. Regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, it is not unreasonable for me to assume that you probably think murder should be illegal. And therefore, it is not unreasonable for me to assume that you will probably react with horror when I tell you that it is my belief that murder should in fact be legal. Oh dear. I can already hear people's fingers angrily tapping away in the comments section. Now, before you get yourself all worked up, please allow me to clarify what I mean here. Murder is bad. If you choose to take the life of an innocent person, you are a disgusting piece of shit, and I hope you rot in hell. I hope that we're all agreed on that front. However, empowering the state to steal people's money in order to pay for a police force to combat murder is not the answer. As has been clearly demonstrated time and time again, the state cannot be trusted to combat murder. Murder was illegal in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. However, that did not prevent these regimes from massacring millions of innocent people. Murder being illegal does not mean that murder won't happen. All it means is that the state is given the power to decide which murders are allowed to happen and which aren't. One need only look at the extrajudicial killings of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor at the hands of a police force which is funded by American taxpayers to see that. When it comes to murder, and when it comes to everything else, as a matter of fact, government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. To combat murder, instead of supporting the government having the role to steal other people's money to fund a militarized police force, individuals should be empowered to earn enough money to take self-defense courses and buy weaponry in order to be able to protect themselves. And as for the less fortunate in society, just as should be the case with healthcare, private charities should exist which should be funded by people's donations made to them voluntarily. With this money, these charities can start militias to protect those who are unable to protect themselves. Now here's where this idea comes to play in regards to abortion. Instead of pro-lifers being forced to violate their conscience by paying to fund organizations which perform abortions such as Planned Parenthood, those organizations should rely on donations made to them voluntarily by pro-choicers. Similarly, instead of forcing pro-choicers to violate their conscience by paying to fund a police force to enforce a ban on abortion which they do not agree with, pro-life charities should rely on donations made to them voluntarily by pro-lifers so that they may form militias in order to protect the unborn. Likewise, pro-choice organizations should also have the freedom to be able to use their monies to form militias to defend people's right to choose an abortion. In such a society, people would be empowered to earn their own money and, in effect, vote with their money to influence how many abortions happen. And they will be able to do this in accordance with their own conscience. Rather than the state having the power to steal other people's money to enforce certain rights, the individual will have the freedom to use their own money as they see fit. This is the truly pro-choice position, as it will allow individuals to choose how they spend their own money, and the truly pro-life position, as it will in the long run lead to people living longer and more prosperous lives due to the state no longer being in control over them and mismanaging everything they govern to such a disastrous level that people's living conditions get worse and their lifespans get shorter. More importantly, it is the pro-freedom position. This is a solution to the abortion debate which prioritizes the freedom of the individual to make their own decisions without government intervention. So, I hope that it has been made clear that the most important abortion debate is not that of pro-choicers against pro-lifers. Rather, it is of pro-choicers and pro-lifers who believe that those who disagree with them should be forced by the state to pay their taxes gladly to fund what they believe to be a right, against pro-choicers and pro-lifers who value human freedom above all else and believe that the individual should never be forced to violate their own conscience. Where do you stand? Let me know in the comments below. I understand that this issue is very sensitive to many and discussions about it can get very heated, but I really want to try to encourage a constructive dialogue here. So please try to be respectful of those who disagree with you. I hope to have many civil and productive conversations with all of you. And as always, stay red-pilled and go destroy a local soy boy for me. SBD out.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
I took advice on what I could or could not do.
Yeah, stop being a hypocrite! Freedom for everyone.
Stop inflating.
Biar pada